Oh, okay. Can you hear me? Ooh, nice. No? My name is Alia Rahman. I'm the field director for Equality Ohio, which means that I drive around the state 6 days a week, meeting you, and checking out what kind of stuff is going on in local communities with respect to a pretty broad range of LGBT issues. Right now, there's a lot of stuff happening with trans prisoners. There's a lot of stuff happening around workplace discrimination. For those of you who signed the postcard outside, as you know, in Ohio, it is legal to be fired as prisoner gay or trans, and so we're working on that. Let's do one of these. And also working with GSAs, hate crime, a lot of stuff that's going on. Marriage takes up about 25% of my time. I'm happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Glenn Andricks. I'm with Freedom Ohio. I'm male to female transgender. Part of the reason I got involved in the marriage effort in the state of Ohio is because of my experience. I reunited with my high school girlfriend that I hadn't seen in like 40 years, and this was 4 years ago. We decided we were going to get married, and she was living in Gallia County, Ohio. My driver's license says female. The state of Ohio allows me to have that. We went to get the marriage license. Instead of asking for our birth certificates, which is normally what they ask for our driver's licenses. We presented the licenses. They gave us the marriage license. An hour later, they sent the sheriff after us for violating the state law and state constitution. We weren't arrested, but we were placed under investigation, and we had to go get a judge's decision to be able to get married in the state of Ohio. A lot of people don't realize that the marriage issue is bigger than just the lesbian and gay issue. It encompasses a lot more than that. So that's why I'm involved.
My name is Tom Morgan. I live in Columbus, Ohio. I am the state lead organizer for Get Equal in Ohio, and I am on the executive board of Freedom to Marry Ohio. That's it, I'm done.
My name is Lillian Ann Briggs, and I am from Owens Community College in Toledo, technically Roxford. And I'm the president of the Gay Street Alliance, also the president of student government, the president of Racial Awareness, and the Honors Coalition liaison for Owens Community College. And I'm involved as, I am male to female transgender as well. And I'm involved because it's just so much more bigger than marriage. This is just a step for us as people to be recognized as people. It's a daily battle that when I ran for all the positions that I was in, the only thing that anybody could say bad about me was that I was transgender. And it was one of those things where it's like, I got involved with like Freedom to Marry and things like that because of Gwen and Amy. And it really just broadened my horizons of the issues at hand for my generation. I'm a college student, and you know, as they always say, you find your inspiration somewhere in life, and I found my inspiration in college with people that I met because of the things I do in college. And I'm just involved because in this state, and most other states, because I am female to male to female, I cannot marry the man that I love, potentially one day, and I'm not okay with that. So.
My name's Oda. I'm co-state lead for Get Equal Ohio. What brings me out, what makes it matter to me is a couple of issues. My experience in my time in high school is actually similar to that of Brian Kendall's. Slight differences in place, location, and time, but overall similar. And I was raised with in a very traditional Catholic family. I was told that family is your first priority and what matters. And growing up and finding out that I myself am a queer person, that my sister, my only sister, is also queer, and then having the government tell us that no, she cannot get married. She's family, but she doesn't get that right. Doesn't sit well with the heart for, excuse me, doesn't sit well in the heart for me. And that's kind of what brings me out tonight.
I thought we were going to the races.
Welcome to Fremont. On Saturday nights, that's what we're going to do. I know we'll be eventually we hope that we're facing this issue on the Ohio ballot. I know, Gwen, you probably have those statistics that you can share with us of how close we're getting and the signatures and.
I don't have an idea of how many we've collected so far. We've been collecting signatures now since February of 12. I know my partner and I have collected thousands, approaching tens of thousands. There's a lot of people out there working for the issue. My job is to collect until they tell me we have enough. We need 385,000 signatures, valid signatures, to be able to get the issue to the ballot. And the average petition issue, the validity rate is about 60%. We're going to try and get 1 million signatures to get this to the ballot. I can tell you that when we're out collecting signatures, there's a very strong response from our allies about this issue needs to be taken care of and passed. And I'm going to Knox County, I'm going to Wood County, I'm going to rural counties. One of the things about this issue is we can't keep preaching to the choir. You know, we can sit and talk to each other about it. It's never going to happen until we get out and talk to all of the citizens of the state of Ohio. It's pretty interesting. I get Republicans and Tea Party are signing the petition. People they see us and they rush to us to sign the petition. It's pretty amazing the response we're getting. I think it's quite possible that this could happen in 2014, but it's going to take all of us getting out there and having the conversation. Our allies have to come out of the closet as well. People have to start having the conversation. You need to talk to your community leaders, your churches, each other, family, about the issue. And that's what we're working on, is we're getting the dialogue going and moving along. And since we've been having the dialogue, the polls are changing. One poll suggested that 53% of the state of Ohio, of the citizens of the state of Ohio, would support marriage equality. Other polls have suggested it's 47-47. But we need to keep pushing that. We need to get out and have a conversation.
I'm just looking at you.
Was there any part of the performance tonight that hit a particular chord or anything with you that you really?
Myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, last night I focused in on one part. There was, they said LGB, and people continually leave the T off. One of the issues that's being worked on right now at a federal level is the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. That's something they've been working to try and pass that now since 1975, I believe. Bella Abzug introduced it originally. And it would give protections for people for orientation, gender identity, gender expression. In 2008, there was a push to get that passed. Barney Frank and HRC decided that there was a better chance of getting it passed without transgender being included, and they threw us under the bus, so to speak. There's another push right now to get it passed in November, but it is an all-inclusive, and they aren't going to leave us behind, and they can't leave us behind. It's the LGBT community. We all need to be included in this. So that's one of the issues we're working on also.
Are there any questions? Does anybody have any questions of any of the panelists that they'd like to, or comment they'd like to make at this point about the show tonight, or any cast members that had a particular? Okay, go ahead.
I have a question. As far as your work with transgender inmates, as far as what kind of progress is being made with that?
Yeah, so let me first say, who's been watching Orange is the New Black? Okay, sorry. So before, when I would go to explain this issue, it would be like a 25-minute conversation, and now what I have to say is the thing that happens to Sophia in episode 3 happened. So, and people will be like, that's messed up, and we're gonna have, but basically, so what we've got going on, actually, I come to the job that I'm in now from previously working in criminal justice reform because I come out of a family that's got that going on, right? Incarcerated parents and so on. And so in coming to LGBT organizing, that was a big focus in uniting that kind of work. And when I was on the other side, okay, there's no offense, but this is the first time I've been gay for pay in my life, right? Even though I used to work on other stuff, but when I was in those other projects, I noticed that there was LGBT stuff popping up all the time that we didn't address. And so in the course of this job, I have seen this particular thing I'm about to explain 7 times. And over the last 2 years working with the Ohio Organizing Collaborative, so I about 12 times. So in the state of Ohio, the DRC, the Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections, has this many guidelines for how you determine someone's gender when they go to prison. So what happens is strip search and look at below belt. That's very problematic for a number of reasons. And so when we do prison visits, you often have trans women who are in men's prisons, right? And they look like women, they identify as women. But when they're at the intake phase, they're often made to shave their head and wear men's clothing and so on, and a lot of assault issues happen, right? They are offered safe custody. Anyone have any guesses what that is? The whole, right. And that's kind of the solution that's around now. So that's one thing that happens, which is a constant kind of misgendering going on in prisons, and it's dangerous, right? People will end up in ICU very shortly after that happens sometimes. And in talking with prison guards, a lot of people assume that all prison guards are just like horrendous people, right? But the reality is in Ohio, that's the only work there is in some areas. People are like guarding their own cousins sometimes. And they're saying, look, we want to be humane in our job, please tell us how, right? So there's a pretty strong lack of education about how we work with trans and LGBT prisoners. But right now, the other thing that happens often is that due to budget cuts, prisons will cut down on what they consider to be cosmetic medication, right? So many of them think that hormones are not necessary, right? Where if you're a trans person, that is a life-saving drug, and you have to have it, right? So right now we actually have a case. This is the first prisoner who said, I want to take this on. File the case, right? Usually when this comes up, they're kind of like, I want to serve my time and not be harassed anymore while I'm in here because it's bad, right? You know, they rightfully fear repercussions. But this prisoner is in Chillicothe Correctional Institution and is somebody who started on estrogen when they were 19. They are now 34 and are 8 months into a prison sentence in which their hormones were cut off. So what that has meant is a significant lack of body, you know, like loss of body tissue, depression, hair growing back, like all kinds of things. It's a trans woman in a men's prison, right? So we are actually on the verge of, we're working with the Ohio Justice and Policy Center to file a federal case for a temporary restraining order that would get that person their hormones back, and then to move into actually doing, whether it's class action lawsuits or something else, actually create some guidelines so people don't have to go through this, right? This is like really, really problematic. So the short answer is it's going great, actually. We're finally moving on this, and the Ohio Justice and Policy Center, which is a statewide progressive lobbying organization that also does pro bono representation, wants to like take on handling LGBT policy in prison. And for a state where 1 in 6 people is a returning citizen, so our word for ex-felons, a lot of people are impacted by that, and LGBT folks tend to be overrepresented in youth services and in prisons as well for a number of reasons. So that it's like an LGBT issue that people don't think of often, but it impacts a lot of people's lives. So thanks for the question. I don't need to talk about it much.
My question is, what's prison and how does that work?
That would need to be part of, like, okay, you know, we've got the temporary restraining order is to like make sure there's no further harm happening right now. It definitely is the sort of band-aid situation. And then we have to move into whether it's case law or regulations, but we do think that we can get some sort of, and this has been a tricky thing in a lot of states, right? So some states that receive federal funding have decided that what they do is pay for the full transition, which a lot of times people couldn't afford, you know, before they went into prison, right? And they'll handle it that way. So there's a couple of different routes we have, but that needs to get handled, right? I mean, the initial problem is the misgendering, right?
So how would the surgery get paid for?
So there's like a specific pot of federal funding that is set aside to handle that because they believe that there's been such a deficit in like treating trans prisoners in humane ways that they really need to make up for that in some ways. So that's one thing, but that may not end up being what happens in Ohio. There's a couple of other options for how we would get out of that situation with some degree of dignity for the person, right?
lack of understanding about what it is to be transgender in our society. The moment that you go on hormone replacement therapy is life-changing. For myself, it was almost like I was getting something that I've been missing all these years. To have that taken away from you, I can't imagine what it'd be like. It'd have to be devastating. The changes in my body, I've been on hormone replacement now for 7 years. I'm in so much better place now about who I am. And a lot of it's because of the hormones that I'm on. The change was like night and day. We need to open our hearts and minds to the transgender community. We are probably the most marginalized and discriminated against group in the United States, but beyond the United States. Our society, for some reason, has taken a real dislike to who we are as human beings. We accept a lot of differences in the human condition. We accept that there's geniuses and people that have lesser abilities, or tall, short, all those differences. That this one thing we see as being an apparition, and we really are just another expression of the human condition. It's been around since the beginning of time. There's a lot of cultures that recognize. There have been a lot of cultures throughout history that have recognized transgender people and treated them as just another part of their society. But for some reason, we can't get by that. It's requiring a lot of education. It's requiring us to be out more and talk more. People meet us and then they go, "Oh, okay, that's what it is." But for some reason, they continue to parade us across television as objects to be ridiculed. We're laughed at on television and sitcoms. Some point has to stop. We're human beings.
The majority of the content of the show revolves around the Marriage Equality Act, but I think I speak for most of the cast members. We discovered so much more in those transcripts about just in general equality across the board.
It's good to be able to talk about the transgender stuff. So I keep feeling like we really should be talking about marriage here. That's really what Prop 8 was about, and that's about giving loving couples the same opportunity that everybody else has. There are 1,138 legal benefits you get from being married. There are the affirmations that you are a couple, a married couple. There's the psychological part of that. In traveling around the state, I've met people, Bill and Tom, I think were their names of Youngstown. They've been together 50 years. They're not allowed to have the same rights, privileges, or responsibilities as any other couple, and I just think that is so wrong. Talking to a couple of gentlemen before the play tonight, they're legally married in another state. There's a part of our Constitution called the full faith and credit provisions, where we're supposed to reciprocate among the states, recognizing each other's laws. We have 13 states now where marriage equality is legal, and yet, why aren't they using the full faith and credit clause? The state of Ohio refuses to recognize marriage from New York. There's a lot of issues we need to talk about on marriage.
Today, I'm a gay activist, and what got me going on this road was something very similar to marriage. Back in '04, my partner at the time, we'd been together for 6 years, was in a really bad car accident, resulting in traumatic brain injury, multiple fractures of his skull, on and on and on. He was in a coma and on a ventilator, and we'd lived together for 6 years. His parents were hostile. I'm a nurse. I have years of experience in critical care, ICU. I had no rights. In the eyes of our state, at that time, and still today, we are legal strangers. Even after having lived together for 6 years. I was unable to make any decisions for him based on my knowledge and my love for him. I spent more time on the sidewalk, sitting on the curb outside the hospital, than I did at his bedside. His parents wanted me banned from the hospital room permanently. I'm happy to report that today we are still together, and he recovered, and he is 100%. He says he hovers around 75 because he never was 100%. But he's awesome. But what we had together, you know, a life together, bill paying. We had a house, we had investments, we have children, schnauzers, together. And all that that's all private, you see. In the public domain, in a hospital where everything, you know, has a spotlight shined on it, what we had was reduced to nothing. Many of you may know that in an ICU setting, you're only allowed 2 hours of visitation a couple times a day, and only 2 people at once. The accident happened while he was on a road trip, and long story short, he was life-flighted to Akron General. We live in Columbus. So his parents live in Barnesville, we live in Columbus, we all converged at the hospital, and we were frantic. We didn't know if he was going to make it. Both of his lungs had collapsed, and I said he was unconscious and on a ventilator. That lasted for weeks, and for most of the span of his hospitalization, I didn't know if I would get him back, if he would be the equivalent of a kindergartner when I got him back, if he would be half of what he once was, but I knew I loved him. And I was bound and determined to take him home no matter what. His parents were dead set against it. They fought him being transferred to Dodd Hall. Dodd Hall at OSU, which is nationally recognized. They wanted to take him back to the little Podunk nursing home where I used to go visit his grandfather. If that had happened, he would still be drooling on himself, I'm sure. So we went out through the social workers, and he went to Dodd Hall. All that being said, to highlight the fact that I had no decision-making power, that sparked something within me. Long ago, I never dreamed of getting married because, you know, growing up gay, that's off the table. Don't even think about it. You know, unless you marry your best girlfriend one day and you have this fake thing, you know, please. I wasn't interested in any of that. So that got me going, and that's why today I do what I do. I'm with Get Equal because they fully believe in full equality for the whole spectrum of us all us citizens, LGBTQIA, the list goes on and on. There's no reason why we should not be treated equally, and we go a step further. We take a bold stand to hold those accountable who stand in the way of our progress. You may remember stories of service people chaining themselves to the White House fence a couple years ago for Don't Ask, Don't Tell. That was us. That's Get Equal. We don't always do arrestable actions, but we're always looking to do something. And we are open to you all. Anyone, getequal.org, go there. They can funnel you through to me or approach me tonight. We would be glad to have anybody who feels like they have it in them to take a bold stand. We don't have cocktail parties, and I'm not slamming anybody who does. What we do is we get on the street with a sign, a bullhorn, and a specific purpose. My involvement with Freedom to Marry Ohio, I just explained to you. I think that the new Why Marriage Matters Ohio initiative that's going on, a coalition group, is fantastic. The more people we get out there educating people about why marriage matters and why it is so important, and telling stories like I just did, and engaging people, that's going to get us there. Every signature that we have collected represents a conversation that was had between 2 people, where one of those people said, you know, you're right, I'm going to sign this petition because I believe it's the right thing to do. Here in Ohio, the current makeup of our legislature probably will not produce a marriage equality bill. But there's another way. You can take it directly to the people through a ballot initiative. And by God, that's what we're going to do. Every signature counts. Please, tell your friends. FreedomOhio.com. You can actually download the petition yourself on your computer and have your friends sign. Once you register as a volunteer, there are how-to videos. It's a little sticky because, you know, it is the government. It's not just, hey, let me have your autograph. You know, many of you tonight signed. It's very detailed. It involves your voter registration demographic, and it has to be perfect, or your signature won't count. That's what Gwen meant earlier when she said valid signatures. So anywho, please get involved. This really is our lives we're fighting for. I always wanted to do that.
That is not something that happens really frequently. Every trip I make in my car from Freedom, Ohio is at my dime. Every time I pay an admission somewhere, I'm paying for it. All the gasoline that I've used traveling around the state, I've paid for that. We are volunteers. We're a grassroots organization. This is something that we, the people, we, the government, the people of the United States, the citizens of Ohio, we are doing. We want this done. We want this changed. It's time. It's been how many years since Stonewall? Over 40. Yeah, 44.
Almost.
It's time this changes. We need to do that, and we're doing
it. Question for the whole panel on sort of backstory. My husband and I were married in New York. Our 1-year anniversary next weekend.
Awesome. Oh, just like an old married couple.
Right.
So we ended up changing our name, and you would believe in the state of Ohio how difficult that is to do.
Yes, I would.
We were actually the first couple in Sandusky County,
Actually, we're the first couple.
to hyphenate our names. We had to go before a judge, thousands of dollars for that to be done. The only legal protections that we've had to do for our lawyers. So, you know, we are fully into this marriage equality issue. And not to cut you off with my question, you know, what types of things, because we've had conversations. When you mentioned, you know, preaching to the choir is our friends, our family. What types of things do we do here? Do we do to push it further?
There are community events in every community. Some communities have a first Friday, fourth Friday. Through the summers, there's always community events. In Bowling Green, where I'm currently residing, they just had the Black Swamp Festival. Getting out and collecting petition signatures at those, getting out and having conversations with people at those. You know, Westerville, Ohio, I used to set up a table once a month at their fourth Friday, and I had a petition, and just, let's talk. You know?
I hang outside of my Starbucks sometimes.
Yeah.
Just clipboard. That's something that we really want to make clear. This is not a we're doing this for you. This is something everybody can do. As I said, you can download the petition. You have to register to be a volunteer, which is free and all that, but it just gives us, you know, your demographic information so we know who's out there collecting for us. Once we get that for you, the website will open up. There are tutorial or how-to videos. For example, you may or may not know, once you download your petition, you can't sign your own petition because it has to be legally witnessed. Little twerky things like that are all in the video. You download that petition packet, you know, you print it up. It's 64 signatures in a single packet. A single packet is only good for a single county. So if you're going out collecting signatures at some event somewhere, you're going to need more than one. Because if you have, you know, several Gallia counties and then a Franklin County signs, the Franklin County signature is no good. Which is sad because if it were only on a Franklin County petition, it would be good. So we want to overemphasize valid signature. It's not just a signature. You have to re-register your voter registration demographic information. And that's something that we always have on us, our voter registrations. You can either register for the first time or change your registration to reflect your current address. If you signed it a month ago and you moved yesterday, guess what? Your signature just became invalid. So get yourself somewhere and sign it again. The neat thing is, if you download a bunch of signatures, you can sign them. You can't. And vice versa. You can sign each other's petition. That's all in the how-to. It's something that everyone, let me repeat that, everyone can do. Not just us, not just Freedom Ohio people, you know, because hopefully we're all Freedom Ohio people. Or, let me change that. Hopefully we're all marriage equality in Ohio in some form or fashion or group here. Because all these groups are important to work together to get this done, and we need them all.
You can be the leader in your community on this. You just say, I want to do it.